Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the City Stage and Friends podcast. I'm Victor Johansson, along with Josiah Shostrom and Francisco Corrales in the engineering room. Today, we have Caleb and Keenan. Thank you very much. With Threefold. Thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate it. You guys are here for a project, but you are based in Bismarck.
Yep, Bismarck, North Dakota. So.
Yeah.
In the vicinity for a project.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks for having us, by the way. Yeah, we were we flew into Chicago. We drove right to
Oh, you
Rockford,
did fly. Okay.
And we were filming right outside Broadhead, Wisconsin.
But so we met at NAB a few years ago now, 3 years ago maybe.
Yeah.
3. Yeah.
Just
our first NAB.
What was it really?
Yeah. It was our first NAB. It was our first the Syndicate.
Syndicate list, with Travis. Yeah.
So we were going in pretty blind. We didn't know many people at that point. So
Yeah.
We talked about going for 10 years or 10 years plus, wanting to go, and finally, with our YouTube channel, we got some invites to go to like the Aperture Super Secret Film Dinner, and this was like a week before the event, and we're like, all right, next year we have to go. Like, we're getting invited to cool things, we have to go. So we finally made it a priority, and we've been there every year since.
I didn't realize it was your first year.
Yeah.
You guys seemed like pros.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
But the funny thing is we just kept, I remember that night I met you guys. I didn't know who you were. You didn't know who I was. You still don't know who I am, but here we are. And then we just kind of bumped into each other a bunch of different places, I felt, throughout the event, and kind of became
I don't know what it was about
friends,
that first year on the show floor, but it was you guys and a few other people that everywhere we went, we were all on the same route, and it was just like we would cross paths like multiple times a day. Like, this year wasn't that way. We didn't run into as many people, and maybe we didn't have a route.
We weren't stalking you as much. This year is really what it was.
This is all part of his plan to get you here.
That's right.
From the get-go.
We knew you had it in the bag at that point, so we were on to somebody else.
Looking at gear to me it's fun. Obviously, it's great. And I know Josiah's you kind of have more of an agenda than I do with lighting in particular. But to me, it's just like I mean, you're
very aggressive.
You're very purposeful, which I actually respect.
Every time I talk to someone, there's some angle I'm working. It's just, I really don't want to talk to you. I just am, trying to get something on my agenda.
No, but I came back this year and last year. It's so good to be around so many creatives, people that do exactly what you do, just in a different part of the country, and it gets me fired up to, sometimes you go in these lulls of you're in your own little world, your own little area of the country, and sometimes I know I can tend to get lazy, and it's like a refresher, like being around so many people. That's probably what I get the most out of it. How was it for you guys this year in Vegas?
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, that was kind of the reason after the first year we realized we're like, this needs to be a priority. Because, again, you kind of think of NAB as like, there's just a bunch of gear announcements. Like, there's great coverage online now, so it's like, why go? But we started the YouTube channel because of that same reason of like, we want to have connections. We want to talk with people, because North Dakota, there's not a lot of it. It's not a big film community. Big surprise, right?
Yet.
It's coming. It's coming.
And then you get challenged by other people. You get forced to have conversations about even gear or technical stuff that it's like, we don't use those lights, we don't use those, but if you're in LA or New York or some of the bigger film cities, and you're on new sets all the time, you work with different people, you work with different gear, and we just work with the gear that we own. So we don't get challenged in that way, where it's like, get challenged on the way you think and the way you operate and the way that you light something, and just being able to hear people's different perspectives and on that stuff is good refresher. And after the first year, we're like, this is actually the most beneficial part about going to NAB. It's the gear's cool, it's fun, but it's definitely just a reason to get everybody in the same room.
Yeah, that's just really the sparkle that catches your attention. But like, it's the talking to people, the networking, and that creative energy to just everyone's kind of somewhat in the same vein, right?
It's like a second reset at the beginning of each new year. January 1st, I'm like, okay, these are my goals. These are my plans. This is, what I want to do for the year. These are like the hopefully I get these types of projects. And then I feel like there's another reset in April. And it's like, okay, yes, let's go. Because seeing everyone that you see online, there's a DP in Austin that I look at his stuff. I'm like, oh my goodness, such great work. And then here we are chatting. So it fires me up. So hopefully, obviously same for you guys, but you're 100% right. Working with small teams, I work with a guy from Marquette, Michigan, which is middle of nowhere as well.
Yeah.
And,
by the way, I love your handle on Instagram that says, something about
the
middle of everywhere. I'm like,
that's great. But you start to do your own thing and you get in the pattern of it, and then it's hard to like go outside and focus. Okay, we could do differently. We could do different lights, different approaches. But then that like not just in terms of gear, but that's also like in terms of the content you're actually creating. Yeah. One of the things I was curious about is kind of the backstory of Threefold, because Bismarck, not a huge town, right?
Right.
No.
And
what is it like roughly popular, like metropolitan?
So Bismarck is like 75, and then it's got two other cities. There's Mandan right across the river. So I think like the area is like 140 or something like that. So it's not huge.
It's the capital, right?
Yeah.
Okay, about to embarrass myself there.
But so starting out, how old were you guys? I guess how many years ago did your company start, and then how was that process of kind of building it to where you have now, and along with a brand new really new studio within the last year, 2 years?
Yeah, we bought it
1 year ago. It was finished.
Yeah,
1 year ago.
We bought it. It was kind of funny though. That was
is it ever finished?
Yeah, never finished. But that was like the thing when we met. The first thing is like, oh, we just bought a space. We're building out a studio, and you're like,
and we were in the middle of it basically.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun. But yeah, we bought that 3 years ago. We're going on 11 years now.
Yep.
And yeah, basically, Keenan and I just sat down. We were seeing the opportunity in North Dakota where big productions were bringing people from the outside. So like important productions that were happening, like, and we saw it, the best example I can use is like tourism. There's agencies within North Dakota, but anytime a big production would be happening, these agencies would be flying in people from Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, or like Denver or somewhere. And it's like, why is there?
We can do the stuff they're doing.
Yeah. And
and to go a little farther back, Caleb and I both did some video stuff growing up. He was doing a lot more, and through college, he was getting He was freelancing with some of the big agencies in the state and doing a lot of work with their video team, and he was teaching them a lot about the cameras and things that they're using. And it's like, these are just the guys that are supposed to know. And if they don't know, like, why are the companies hiring them?
Yeah.
And so it was at that point.
So were you going on, is it an AC then? Or like, what was camera operator?
Yeah.
AC?
Basically, assistant camera. And then there was some stuff that I did where I DP'd, but it was, again, the agencies in Bismarck aren't big, but that was like really the eye-opening coming like out of college and in college. And you're realizing it's like, this isn't as hard as you realize when you're exposed to it. I mean, I shouldn't say it's as hard, but like Keenan said, there was just that area of, again, there's a reason they were bringing in outside companies, but then the stuff that was happening within the state, it's like, okay, the bar is not that high here, right? And that's where I was like, man, we there's an opportunity here to provide like high quality production for the productions that actually need high quality production.
Yeah.
So
then we started, and it was we had both just finished college, and it was, okay, we're going to just try this and commit, and we're not going to have any backup plan. There was no backup plan. There was no plan B.
That's the only way.
There was no other backup job. We didn't have any part-time jobs. It was like, we don't want to lose a project because somebody has to go work at, Friday afternoon or something.
And you get a regular job. You make in a day what you'd make in, a whole week, probably.
Yeah.
So it's like, why?
Yeah, so it was like, all right, we're just going to commit to this. And the first year, the first couple of years, it was let's just invest everything back into gear and just keep building up a gear arsenal that we can rent out and that we can kind of continue to up the level of production that we are offering. And it just slowly built from there. We ran out of my apartment, and then we got a studio. Our first studio that we rented, it was 2,000 square feet, and we moved in with one desk, a giant room, and we're like, wow, maybe we went a little too far. This is a lot of space, and
I was planning to live in it for a while. I was like, well, worst case scenario, we'll just overlap. I'll live in the studio.
Yeah, but that didn't. Yeah, thankfully that didn't happen, and it filled up quick. We landed a couple of projects. We did a furniture trade with a company out in San Francisco. We did some video work for them, and we're like, we needed furniture, and so we still have all of the furniture that we got from them.
Oh wow.
Or 10
7
years
ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, the big part with like our thought process with investing into and reinvesting, I guess, everything we were making was because we just had nothing for rental out there. Like it's, the closest is 6 hours away.
You mentioned rental. So were you actually renting it out to people, or you mean like you were getting like the rental rate on projects you guys were doing?
Yes. Yeah. So we rented it out to clients, and that was the way that we were seeing, done in the industry. Whether you own it or you are renting it, it's still a line item on there for the gear. And so it was all right, and it was, hey, we can make our projects look better, and we had some of the first aperture panels that ever came out.
I'm sorry.
We still have them. Yeah, they're
Sitting
grow
in the
lights
closet.
now.
Grow lights.
Yeah.
So how's that business going on? Is that more profitable?
That's
really helpful.
It comes from.
Yeah. But it's it was a learning curve those first few years, just figuring out how to get direct to client stuff, because there was still a little bit of like an agency barrier, and there's been a lot of there's plenty of videographers that come through and start a business for a year and then don't make it. So us getting to 5 years was a big milestone, because it was like, all right, there's not 80% of small businesses fail by the first 5 years, and so it was like, all right, we made it past that milestone, but kind of built some credibility, and the bigger clients kept kind of slowly showing up project by project, but we really just over-invested in project. It was like everything we do can be an advertisement for ourselves. And that was our mantra for a long time, was, all right, let's make things, let's over-invest. And, now we build $5,000 for a project, and we gave them a $10,000 project. And now the next guy that comes and asks about that, it's like, that's $10,000 to make that project. So
the work that you do begets the work that you do.
Yeah.
So shoot more like what you want to shoot.
Yeah. That's cool. So then at what point do you guys decide that you needed a studio, or were you looking at different type of work that you wanted to kind of focus on, or what was the reasoning behind the studio? Because it's a beautiful space. Kiko, would you mind, while we're talking, pulling up that studio space? I think you guys have a video of the tour.
Yeah.
We could play a little bit of that, because it's a beautiful space, and the fact that you guys designed it yourself is so impressive. I mean, that is very cool. So what was the reasoning behind that?
Well, our small studio had a cyc wall that we built.
Our first studio.
Yeah, our first studio. That was 2,000 square feet, but we just had a 36-inch door, so we couldn't bring anything big in, and it was like 25 feet by 19 feet. So it was still a sizable space, but
especially when the biggest thing you can fit on is 3 feet wide.
Yeah.
Looks even bigger.
Yeah, that too. And it was funny. We actually went to some agencies in town, and we're like, hey, we're thinking about building a studio. Is this something you guys would ever use? And they were like, no, that business model's dead. Nobody uses studios anymore. And I was like, well, all right. We still kind of think they will, so we're going to do it anyway. Yeah. And at the time, they never rented from us, but
and at the time too, when we built the first space, we knew we always wanted like an office space. We're like, we really want to be working in a collaborative space with other people. And when we built it, we really didn't have a ton of studio experience, because again, it's Bismarck. There's not a ton of options. But we knew that it could be a unique advantage for us being in North Dakota, because it's like, obviously it's cold a lot, and
we like the professionalism that it gave us too, of like the legitimacy of like, we are not somebody just working in our basement creating videos for you. We are,
or your mom's basement.
Yes, a real business that has this, an office, and being in North Dakota, having a winter asset was big too. That was a huge reason for
it's very cold.
we need something to film in a space that, we can actually create content for clients 6 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was another really big reason because, and the last big reason being attempting to future plan for families and, kids of, hey, we can control things in the studio a lot better than, us traveling. And the traveling is fun, but it is not what we want to do all the time forever. It's, having the control of our own studio that we can cut it off at 5 o'clock and pick it up the next day rather than like, well, we're renting the space. We got to get in and get out of here. We're not renting it to that many people. So it is a space that we built for us and the projects that we want to do. And I think, trying to keep that work-life balance in a industry that is not very supportive.
Very good that's a big point too. I mean, it's a significant, because I'm assuming when you started, you're both single. Is that
yeah?
Is that right?
Yeah.
So at what point in like how many years down the road was it? Because you're both married now, both have kids.
Yeah.
So when we started, it was oh man, I'm trying to think here. We moved into our first space, which is the one that we renovated. We leased that space for 7-8 years.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And right when we were moving into that space, that was the summer I got married, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had been dating,
And his wife didn't want to move into the studio for some reason.
That's weird.
That is ridiculous.
She's
We're
not
we
a
got
team
a really
player.
good deal on this.
yeah. So I was dating, but she was out in Minneapolis, so it was a distance dating. So we still had a lot of time, and me and him to just spend extra hours, beyond 9
Distance
to 5.
How far is that? Like
6-hour drive.
6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I made that drive. I did a little very micro budget Western film, and we went to North Dakota.
Oh,
it was
okay.
cool. The area was beautiful, but yeah, it was a long drive.
Yeah.
Because that's where originally the Minneapolis market is where I was from, and I
okay.
moved here almost 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun though. Like nothing around, but it was lots of pretty areas. It almost the rolling hills, and then you have the kind of prairies, right?
Yeah.
And I don't remember where I was, but yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, kind of from Fargo, it's just super flat, and then
Near Fargo, yeah.
You hit Bismarck, and you get these really great rolling hills, and then the west side, it's the whole Badlands area. So it's
That's right. Yeah.
There's something about the Badlands that I just think is super cool. We went on a road trip out there with my as I was a kid with my family. Probably my favorite trip as a child. I don't know why, but something about that area just spoke to me.
Yeah.
And now you can recreate that with your children and take a road trip and bring them up.
And probably the
And stop
first
by the
stop is going to be
studio.
Bismarck. So, how large a family can you accommodate at your studio?
He's
Because,
got 72.
We'll make it work.
Yeah.
We can hang hammocks. We can
Studio. I don't know what we were talking about before we lost track of. Studio, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about your studio. The reasoning behind it. Yeah.
Kiko's got that pulled up if you want to.
Yeah. If you guys. Sorry, Kiko, go ahead.
Is this the right one?
Yeah.
Bottom left corner. Can
I
you
believe
Can you put
so.
that on the preview?
It's
Do you
a
guys
video.
mind?
Just scrub through it or something.
Yeah, if you scrub through it, Kiko. And then do you guys mind just giving a little
By the
bit
way,
of
these guys
background?
have a killer YouTube channel.
do.
Way bigger following than we have.
It's an honor.
Not for
Thank
long,
you for
though.
being here.
Yeah, so the whole idea with this was
Look
Keenan
at
and I
this
we
space.
knew we wanted to purchase a building at some point in time, and
Look at that access point that's bigger than 36 inches.
so big, 14 feet. It's just, we love it. But yeah, anyway, so the whole idea was we knew we wanted to own a space just from like the security thing, because it was like, this is the long-term play for us. Like we are invested for the long haul in this, and we wanted something that we knew we had control over. And so we weren't necessarily in the market for it, but it came on, like it became available, and we went and looked at it, and we're like, oh, I don't know if we're ready for this, but there's probably not going to be an opportunity. Bismarck, there's not like a bunch of real estate opportunities for commercial stuff. Specifically what we're looking for.
Put that on loop one more time, Kiko. That's just so cool. Great little overview of that space.
Yeah, and so this one came on, and what sold this was it was a 60-foot by 120-foot free span building. So no
big deal, right?
Yeah,
No
no
pillars.
supports, no pillars. and it needed a ton of work, and it was we could actually afford it, which was the best part. So.
Yeah. It had some
was
restrictions with anybody else that is looking at a space that size needs a lot of parking, and there wasn't a lot of parking available. But we have a small team, and there is kind of some adjacent parking.
So you're saying that's part of the reason you were able to get it for a better price because it didn't have a lot of parking?
Yeah, so there was just not a lot of outside interest because of that, and it was like, oh, this actually works perfect for us. We have a team of 7. There's 10, 12 spots you could make work for parking. But we've had 300 people in there for an open house, and there's plenty of adjacent parking. There's a 3-city block parking lot right across the street from us.
Wow.
We're just blessed with that. Thanks for a hospital for providing that, and not anything nice
At your
there.
request.
Yeah.
But aesthetically too, like what a great job you guys did on that.
Yeah.
And
Don't look at the outside yet.
The outside.
And you can deep dive on their channel. You've got some great stuff of like what you went through on the build process, and you guys were like sweating doing a lot of that yourselves as well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
very cool.
That area is so great. And it's interesting because I came in kind of on when I moved here, Josiah had and some of the people here had already built out a lot of the
pretty much just the offices.
The offices, really, yeah, you're right. Actually, the photo studio wasn't built. The main stage was still the roof. I think was kind of.
I think we had just recently had it enclosed.
Yeah, correct.
So
and I'd been here before that. Just to we've been friends online for a while, so I was like, I'll come over, just hang out. If you need any help around the studio, let me know. But I saw how much work it took, and Josiah's he's still gaffing. So he's still got his day job, and then he has to come here, make sure, project manage, and then a lot of it is do hands-on. I mean, we did the installation.
The timing, in a way was fortuitous, and in a way was terrible. But because we ended up buying the property here, and it ended up being during 2020, like during the pandemic. That wasn't the plan, but that's how it happened.
Great rates. Did you get a good rate?
Terrible rates.
Terrible rate.
No.
My one thing I think it was we had to do some steel work because we raised the roof on the main stage out there, and from the initial quote that we got on doing that to like when we actually went to pull the trigger, like I'm talking like less than 2 months later, it had gone up 300%.
Wow.
And it was just a constant battle of that with like whatever was available. But the upside was we actually started because a lot of our work dried up, and probably yours did as well during that time frame. And me and another guy here both had a construction background. Yeah. So we just came in and showed up here and put on our tool belts and swung hammers and slung mud for 6 months straight, like it was our job, So.
Yeah. But like I saw the amount of things it took, and just even we're working on something, and then all of a sudden you have to look at drawings from an architect, or contact the tile people. So it's just a lot of these little things, but they add up. So how was that for you guys, doing it all yourself but still managing your company, and clients?
Yeah, it was.
So Caleb project managed it. Yeah. So after we bought the building, it was like, all right, one of us has to, be the main point of contact.
It might as well be the guy with the mustache.
Yeah.
Was that part of the decision?
It was actually the only qualification that.
Well, I guess that's a clear and simple decision here.
Yeah. No, but it was very much a decision of like, all right, somebody has to project manage this thing. A lot of my job is a lot of the client side of things, so it made sense for me to stay on with that and run the business side of things. And then Caleb and Adam, after things kind of got started, they were kind of our 2 full-time construction people. And so a year ago we had our open house and our kind of 10-year anniversary where the building is mostly finished. All the things are almost there, as far as we want them anyway. And it was like, all right, after this, we are going to have 2 more full-time people doing video production again, because for the last 2 years, they have been,
Working
80%
on the building.
working on the building.
Yeah.
And, they still did productions. So if we had productions, they came for those. But, as far as day-to-day stuff, editing, in-office stuff, they were kind of hands-off, and they were in the warehouse. And then we still had full team days where, whether it was warehouse Fridays where we brought the whole team and everybody's working on something, and just to try and expedite that a little bit. But
it was a lot to juggle. Like you said, I mean, it's just like all these little things you don't really think about ahead of time. Like, it's going to be a big project, but then you start getting into it, and it's like one thing uncovers another, and then dealing with like contractors too, and finding like people is like we did some we had a structural engineer do a building analysis for us right away, because we wanted to do some things like our mezzanine, and that was something was like, okay, well, we got to figure out how we can do this, and it's not just hacked together. So we had that done, but then when we tried to find someone to do the steel modifications, because there was like some reinforcing of the purlins, some like X bracing that we did in the front and the back, that kind of stuff. Like, I reached out to like 3 contractors, and no one would even get back to me. I was like, all right, well, I guess we're doing this. And thankfully we had a good connection with a company we'd worked with who they do aggregate, but they also manufacture machinery and supply steel and stuff. So we reached out to them. They hooked us up with a discount and order for all the steel stuff.
Oh, wow.
And then we did all the cutting and placing of the steel, and then there was some welding stuff that we needed done, and we had a friend who did that. And so they helped us with that. And so,
but just like with this space and the size of this space, we're both pretty handy, grew up doing a lot of stuff, and even do plenty in our houses of whatever. But you move into a space that big, everything is a lot of, just both cost and time of like, oh, we got to change this, and, all these walls. And it's like, it's just a lot to do.
It's exponential.
Yes.
It's everything's bigger.
Everything's bigger, and it is like, all right, this is going to take a very long time. Like, it's just any small change, is exponential on that scale of the buildings of that size. So.
And the cost, like, if it's made for commercial use, it's just more expensive too.
Yeah.
But we've found, I mean, I don't know if you guys ended up dealing with that much at all, but like anything that we tried to kind of cut corners on and do the more domestic route, we've pretty much ended up regretting in the end. You know? So it's like there's a reason. It's built that way for a reason.
Do you guys have any background in construction or engineering? Any?
We have a brother that is now in it, but no. We have a dad who was a farmer growing up, and
farmers can do anything.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm just trying to like picturing me as going, okay, I got this studio space to build, I got a vision, but I would have no idea where the heck to freaking start. That's so impressive.
Well,
you just take one bit at a time, or?
Yeah, I mean,
YouTube?
I had an old house that I'd done a lot of renovations on, and again, our older brother had experience with it, and I mean, through the process of the renovation, it was just like you gotta accept the fact that it's like I'm gonna ask a lot of dumb questions. Like you just gotta be okay asking like what feels like dumb questions, and being vulnerable to like, I don't fully know how to do this, so I'm gonna like make sure I get the right answers and ask the right people. Yeah. And so there was a lot of like the amount of times I reached out to our structural engineer, I was like, okay, make sure we're doing this right. And like reaching out to people like our older brother. And I mean, it was a lot of people too. Like I was.
Yeah. And thankfully this was technically our third space. So our first space was 2,000 square feet, and we added on another like 1,500 that was right next to it. And we had a wonderful landlord there who he didn't rent that other side out, and was just like, well, I'll just keep it in case you guys ever want it. And it was like, I don't know what kind of business model that is, but it's
the Bismarck business model.
Yeah,
I love that.
He was a sweet old guy, and so eventually we did move in there, and he didn't charge us rent for like a year. He's just like, next month, and
what a guy!
Oh wow,
and we did a lot of the work. So we kind of learned from both of those, because that was we built the studio side out, and we had our desks, and as we added more people, we were up to 4, and it's like, man, this isn't. It was a very just wide open workspace, and there's no room for private calls and meetings, and it was like, this okay, we need some more like isolated editing booth and, you know, an actual meeting room. And so we expanded and built more of a office side that had, you know, an editing bay and a small conference room and some more desks, and then had a dedicated studio side where like that's just production. All the gear lives over there. So we had done it a couple times and definitely some lessons learned, and you know, sheetrock, tape, and texture. We're like, all right, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to pay for that. We're gonna hire somebody. That is not worth our time.
It's not my forte either.
Yeah.
Well, we should say we did some of it in the back, and then when we did the front office, we're like, no, we were way too inefficient.
Yeah. Well, it's very impressive. So anyone who wants to do a deeper dive into the studio, there's it's fairly lengthy.
Yeah, we did individual episodes of the warehouse build, and then we compiled it into like a just
hour and a half
feature
long
length
episode. So.
Yeah. No, but
it's on PBS right
if
now.
you want to just put it on 5X and
but it's entertaining. It's very entertaining. So the thing that sticks out to me is that I think when you did, I think you said you had a structural engineer come out and discovered that there's just giant gaps in the bottom.
Yeah.
So then you had to patch those up.
There was just
where do you
like
expect that?
nonstop things of uncovering, unexpected. And when we knew that when we looked at the building,
It's an older building, right?
We went into the building and we're like, okay, it's got a good steel structure.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just gonna assume everything else is just terrible. Assume the worst.
Yeah.
And
so we ended up rebuilding all the walls. But you know, then you have afterwards you have the security of mental security of like, all right, it's done right. Like
100%.
It's done right.
Yeah, you know your building inside and out.
Yeah.
So
So it's a beautiful space. Go check out that video. The thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is the team building, because it was you guys for a while, right?
Yeah.
And then
2 years.
talk to me about the process of hiring on. Are you up to 6?
7 full-time,
Seven
including
full-time,
us.
yeah.
So
including you guys.
5 employees under.
5 employees. So what was that process like? And are these people in Bismarck? Or did you have to train them, or were they already trained? Did they have, because it's a different area, right? So it's your group of people that you can pull from is a lot smaller.
And 2 of them are here, actually. Zach and Adam are in the house.
Yep.
And they are the first 2 that we hired, actually, going on 9 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, so we started 11 years ago. They joined us the second year, and they were hired 1 month apart, actually. We hired Adam, and then a couple weeks after that, we landed a really big project. And that was September, October timeline. And a couple months before that, met up with Zach in L.A., actually. He was down in L.A., spent, a year and a half, 2 years, something like that down there, a little while down there, doing some, grip, gaff work on a handful of different projects, and ended up moving back. Somebody that I had met, Zach was somebody I had met in college, and super talented DP, editor, all the above. And it was like, hey, we'll see if he wants to join the team for a little bit. We hired them on contract because we were doubling our payroll, and we're like, we don't know if we can pay for you beyond 3 months, but we can guarantee 3 months of work, and hopefully we can.
Here's your 3
that.
month job offer.
Yeah, 9 years later, they're still here. So
you're still giving them like 1 month's extension.
We renew.
Yeah. And then it was just the 4 of us for a number of years, for 3 more years.
Yeah.
And
then Joel came on.
I needed somebody on my support. So they handled a lot of the technical side of things, and I was just needing a little support on the project management, client management, producing end of the spectrum. And so Joel had no background in it, but he had the people skills to do what we wanted, what I wanted, and handling clients. And so it's like, all right, we could teach you the rest. We just need somebody that's good with people to be on the team.
That's a whole lot harder to teach.
Yeah.
And throughout this, like, we've always looked at bringing people on as like, let's just do slow and steady. Like, we've never put out a job application. It's just been like, let's wait for the right people to be a part of the team.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's been slow growth over the years, but it's been the right people. Like, and I think our team's amazing. And like the warehouse build is a perfect example of just like everyone being willing to like see the vision of like, this is going to be really messy for a while, guys, because we're operating on
like,
like,
oh,
two
that's not
spaces.
that's not my job description.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was no egos. And so like for like a 2.5, 3 year renovation process, it was like everyone was just so like ready and positive to like tackle it and go, you know, like, and again, me and Adam were over there all the time. It was like, this is not our normal job description, but like, you know, everyone saw the bigger vision and
willing to get his hands dirty and you know, see the bigger picture was a big part of it. And so we have everybody that we've hired, we've done so very slowly too. It was so Joel was somebody that I knew, well, we both knew growing up. He moved to Tennessee actually, and then came back for my wedding. He was in my wedding, and he had just kind of left his job that he was at and didn't have a plan. And I told him, I was like, hey, I don't have a job offer, but would you be interested in working for us?
If there was one.
And so they ended up moving from Tennessee back to North Dakota, and they've been here. He's been with us for 5 years, and so now we have Danny, and she's an editor that is from Bismarck, and Haley on our team. She's project manager from Bismarck, and they were both very slow hires too. We did, you know, a handful of interviews, tried to get to know them. You know,
and Danny was actually in one of our videos originally, and she was someone we knew for a long time. She dabbled with video, and she's an artist, really talented, and she was in a video, and then she kind of was dropping some not so subtle hints about hiring her, and
So did you put these people onto projects prior, and just to see how it flowed? Yeah, okay.
Is she the one you were saying helps with like the set dressing and all that sort of design stuff?
Yeah. So again, it's really awesome because our team's super handy, and she grew up. Her mom's an artist. She's an incredibly talented artist herself. And so she's done all of the set decorating, art direction on all of our flats. So she'll create mood boards and stuff when we come with an idea, and she's responsible for all the props. And she's even done like custom artwork, like hotel painting, she calls it, for like some of our sets where she'll just like throw out a bunch of paintings, canvases from the thrift store, and just like paint over them. And they're like, this is actually really good. But she just like will whip it out. And
you don't have to worry about licensing. Don't have to worry about anything. You know, whatever's in the background, it's all ours. And so, and she just whips up beautiful paintings. You know, it's just like, oh wow, that was.
But yeah, you got to check out some of the set builds these guys do on the channel too. Just really cool.
Kiko,
stuff.
would you mind pulling that up? I think you guys have a video of kind of behind the scenes of a couple of your sets that you built. Yeah,
I think they're like sprinkled through a few different videos. But
I think it would be on their YouTube channel, Kiko.
And then the final, Haley actually joined last year, and she was someone who she had been working for another company, a video company here in town, and I had kept an eye on her for a long time because she it was actually funny. We worked for the same person back in college. I had worked for him, then I left, and she started working for him. And so I knew of her for a while, but she worked there for a long time, and then we kind of heard.
One of your friends who worked for him too was like, "You should hire Haley."
Yeah,
and
that was part of it. Is like everyone like 8 years was you got to hire her, and then she went to another company and was like, "Well, we can't poach her now." So then like last year we heard,
but now you did.
Yeah. Well, we heard that she was potentially looking for something else, and so I was like, okay, well, let's chat. Let's see if this works, and it did. And she's been an awesome addition to the team too, and she's our project manager now, and so. She's very type A, super organized, helps keeps things keep a very tight ship. So.
Yeah.
So you guys are, you guys are kind of an interesting case study altogether as a company because it's almost a slightly new kind of model, like just being like you really are like a hit squad, kind of like you all obviously are having to swing different positions on the productions, but then like you're like an agency in a way, but you're a production company. And it's kind of I feel like it's a little bit of a new thing, but you're seeing more of it as kind of productions decentralized from some of the major metros around the country. And it's, you know, for good or for bad, it's part of what it is. Like, in my world, I'm primarily a gaffer, and, you know, I'm just a piece of the puzzle, you know, going on working with whatever projects, but you guys are there kind of like, on every project, having to figure out the new things, and how is that? I guess first off, it's interesting to me how well you guys seem to be doing in that. Like, I mean, to be able to meet that payroll every month, that's got to be a lot of pressure. Now you got the studio, and you're doing it in Bismarck, North Dakota. Yeah, which I'm sure there's a bunch of towns around the country like Bismarck. Yeah, that but you've figured out this model to make it work. So how have you been able to do that? Like, what's the secret sauce? Basically, we want to know.
Yeah. Well, it's a tricky one, but like first we kind of had to do it out of necessity because again, Bismarck is small, and there's just, even if we would have wanted to just keep it small, and it's like we'll contract out when we need the positions for productions that we need. We really couldn't do that unless we were like having people drive in from 3+ hours away.
Sure.
And even like Fargo didn't have much either. So it was having to drive in quite a ways. So part of it was like we kind of had to out of necessity. And then sometimes I feel like some of, at least my experience that we've had in our team, it's like the film industry, when you're working with contractors and like a group of people that are brought together, sometimes there can be egos. And like we've experienced it because we've worked with, yeah. We've experienced it when like, not that we do a lot of it, but like a production company would come in for something and we'd help do, G&E stuff for them or whatever. And it was just, I don't want to say toxic, but that sometimes there is like sets and people there, it's toxic and the work-life balance isn't great. And that was something that we always said, was like, we want to have a really open, real relationship with everyone on our team. And, people don't have egos. People don't get offended. Like, we can speak openly with each other and help build each other up. And I feel like we've done a good job at that, but I feel like it's what Keenan and I have very much wanted. And I feel like everyone on the team rallies behind it too, just because it makes the working experience more enjoyable. Yeah. When you're not dealing with someone who's, 100%. Again, got an ego, and it's not a toxic environment. And so it has been, with that being said, the business model itself, as you guys know, like their jobs, it's single one-off jobs. You have your clients that there's repeat, but there's still always that pressure of you have busy seasons and you have slow seasons. And so there's no easy way to predict, I guess, what's going to come in the door. But yeah, we've made it 11 years. So
I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you going to ask?
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say the big part of it for us early on was the creative side of it. Is like that was a piece that we didn't want to give up, and kind of especially seeing some of the the capabilities of local agencies. It was like we know our creative capabilities, and we want to be a part of that and handle that, and we felt confident that we could do that. And so that was a big part of it from early on, was like, this is something that's a really big priority for us, and we want to be a part of that for clients. And thankfully we were able to get tapped into that pretty early and have a few people that believed in us. And one of the things early on, we made a community video for the chamber, and we spent a ton of time getting time lapses and ridiculous stuff around Bismarck, and a really feel-good Bismarck piece that was, again, like, let's create some advertisements for ourselves that get us some attention. And that was something early on that got us a lot of attention and kind of helped snowball things early on getting started. But
that, I guess I forgot, my follow-up was going to be along the lines of what you said about the slow and the busy and the slow seasons. I mean, so how do you manage that in terms of outreach and you're looking outside of Bismarck? You're looking, I assume, in Bismarck as well, but then also you're I'm sure are you guys doing cold calls? Are you doing emails or reaching out to companies that you want to work with or have worked with? What's that process like? Because that's a difficult thing about studio. And having this studio, as we want to have this place packed out every day. It would be great. But it's just not realistic because not every production is going to need it. Right. But there are specific industries, specific companies that do need it. Yeah. So it's like, okay, which ones do we target? how do we get their attention? How do we, begin the process of getting that connection started? So it's trickier than just going, I'm going to make a bunch of sales calls and see, what lands. Yeah. So what's your process like for those kind of slow times and managing it?
Well, that was one of the reasons for starting the YouTube too, was kind of being able to juggle that and, all right, let's create content if we do have slow seasons. So 2020, we, thankfully COVID hit. We had a ton of projects that we just wrapped filming. So we had a lot of editing backed up, but then it was like, all right, let's try and pump out like a video a week for the rest of the year, and let that hopefully lead to some more projects or something. And I don't remember if we hit that metric or not, but that's always been something that in the slow season, and even for editors, keeping their plate full too. It's like right now, I think we don't always have a backlog, but right now, thankfully, we have a backlog of YouTube projects that will kind of get edited whenever someone plate frees up a little bit, and they have some.
We'll be adding to that backlog later today.
Yep. Yes, we will. But it's nice to have that. So then if somebody doesn't have something to do, or they aren't kind of twiddling their thumbs looking for something to do, that was a piece of it that has helped out. And we've got a couple of clients. It hasn't led to a lot of clients, as many as we hope, but it has led to a couple, which have been fun, and even more recently, and kind of feels like another one of those, the longer you invest, it will kind of return. And we did a project for DJI, and Avenger stands that they published on their channels, that it was like, cool. Hey, we were looking for this. And so it took a very long time, but slowly starting to see a little fruits of the labor there.
And then a lot of the other main jobs, it's been just a lot of referral from the beginning.
Yeah. Early on Instagram, we used Instagram.
Yes, yeah, we were very intentional about that.
It was, we want our Instagram to be really curated. We were, I worked really hard to be like one of the first companies uploading videos, and it was like when you were like editing them and you had to export and format them a perfect file type so that you could upload them and onto Instagram. And so our Instagram, when we first started, was basically looked like a website, and I would go in and find companies that we wanted to work for, and then I'd look under all the people that they were following, and I'd find the employees that worked there, and I'd follow them and try and get some of their attention. And it worked for a handful of clients, and it was like, oh, this seems to, like, we got a John Deere dealership that we worked with that's a pretty big also has a pretty big global presence, and they found us through Instagram, and then went to our website and really liked our website. But it was like, oh, this seems like the best path to get to the decision maker to like see our stuff.
Yeah, it was really just about making people know, making sure they knew we existed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For lack of a better term.
In an
like
aesthetic fashion that's actually like genuinely interesting versus just spamming.
Right. Yeah, and it was like, let them kind of make the decision whether we're the right fit or not, and less cold call of, kind of plant the seed. And even though it was like, we saw a lot of other people and their Instagrams and everything was just like, it's the 1 year anniversary of so-and-so getting hired. And it's just pictures of their employees. And it's like, I don't want to see that. And I don't think let's put our best foot forward of all of our work and just be a really curated place for an advertisement for ourselves. So that was the big one.
Instagram's changed quite a bit since then, but that was a very early
10 years
strategy.
ago.
Yeah. No, that's a good strategy. I mean, that direct outreach and the connection's still valuable. I mean, do you guys do anything on LinkedIn as well?
A little bit.
Starting to do more.
I feel like that's another one that's like very targeted. The people that are seeing your stuff isn't just like also friends, some business people, freelancers that won't hire you. They just freelance. You know what I mean? LinkedIn, that's something that I want to do more of too. But any other forms of like outreach or connections that you guys focus on?
I mean, we've always worked pretty hard to just stay involved with the community. I mean, I know it's a small one, but it's one of those things that, not that there's direct companies within Bismarck that are always hiring us. Sometimes it's outside, but there's just been a lot of connections where it's like, again, let people know we exist. We're still operating. We're still, going full force ahead. And it's led to, maybe we connect with a marketing person in Bismarck and they know someone who's in Fargo or somewhere else. And so I think that's been a big priority for us over the last 11 years of like.
But they know you're likable, you're the good guys, and it leads to something.
Yeah, exactly. So.
But back to the concept of just how you've developed this in your hometown. Like part of the reason for that had to be you wanted to stay in Bismarck too. Like, what?
Yeah, that was a big thing for us because like both, so our whole family was there. We weren't. My parents grew up in a small town, North Dakota, and then they eventually moved to Bismarck. But we grew up relatively close to like our grandparents, and we saw what that was. We both knew we wanted to have and raise families. We like North Dakota, like there's obviously downsides to anywhere you live, right? But
100%.
We love it. We think it's great, and so it was a big reason of like this is a great place to raise a family. We want to stay here. We want to figure out how we can do it.
It also felt like the most viable place. So I was really involved in stuff outside of things in high school. The junior chamber had a program, met a lot of other people there, and kind of some extracurriculars in high school. Caleb was too, and so starting in Bismarck felt like we had a really strong network built already. And so it was like December 2014, January 2014, we kind of launched our website, and we were kind of announcing that we were starting Threefold, and this is happening. And it was shortly after that we had people in Bismarck that were hiring us for some stuff, and it's like, man, starting this in a city that you don't know anyone feels like an impossible hill to climb. How do you start that network? And so it felt like the only viable option of, okay, we have a network here of people that know us, that we can grow a business faster here than anywhere else. Minneapolis has more opportunity, but we know less people, and we have to start from square one to try and meet.
And it's a tough one.
Yeah,
that was
very competitive. Yeah,
very competitive. And a lot of the agents. I made 200 calls, over 200 calls, and then went to literally door to door, and it was everyone seemed to be already in this clique, and I was such an outsider, starting out, and I'm 18, maybe 20, 21, somewhere in there. Yeah. So it's like, I'm just starting out somewhat, and it was tough. It was really, really tough. So having that network, and then moving here, Josiah, and everyone that I've been connected to, it was way easier.
Yeah.
You just meet, greet, talk, hang out, and you're there. So I could see why you'd want to stick in that area. Yeah.
It's encouraging, like that you found a model that works, and you didn't have to move to LA or whatever. You know? So you can do what you love, do this cool stuff you've thought would be a cool thing to do and try to make money off of, and here you are 11 years later, and still feeding the kids. So
It's very cool. It's very cool. What are we at on time? Are we okay? Hour and
2 minutes.
We're roughly about an hour.
Okay. Do we have time? I do kind of want to. What time are we?
About 11 o'clock.
Do we have 15?
We should probably do an intro for City Stage.
Yeah, I do. Before that, I want to talk about the sets, because I think those are such cool aspects of what you guys do. Kiko, did you?
So this is an interesting set. Let me just tell you. We told the client, we have an idea for a project. Let's build a rotating set. And they're like, we love that idea. And we're like,
now we have to actually
now we have to build a rotating set. How do we build a rotating set?
Look at that hair.
I know.
Yeah, bring that back. Let's go.
I don't know. I think I like what's
and
going
a
on
mustache.
So that was a set that we built in our old studio, and it was a pretty big set. We brought in an actor from Minneapolis as our main talent. It was for WEX. This was for their health benefits division, and they actually have a couple of the divisions that we worked for later on, that was cool that we got to work. They had a Boston and a London office that we were able to do a couple more projects for, but definitely some lessons learned there. Of we had to rotate that thing manually by hand. Somebody was back behind the stage rotating. But
metal frame construction.
That was a poor choice.
Okay.
It was to make it lighter, but it was, yeah.
So many of the set builds, and again, when we built the first studio, again, we had no experience when it was with doing set stuff. Like,
wow,
we it was like we wanted to do it, but we were going in so naive and blind with a lot of it that it's been a huge learning curve over the years of just like figure it out. Like, and so there's been some really.
In fact, our first set build, one of the first set builds that we ever did, it took us like a couple months because we had a relationship with a client,
but you were billing them by the day for that anyway.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't know we were making this project, and I said I'll sell it to them after we finish it.
Oh wow!
And it was a track dolly shot of somebody, on a bed getting ready and
going into a bathroom, going into a closet, and then going to the front of the house.
Automated, like this kind of automated messaging of.
Because we wanted to do studio stuff, so we're like, let's figure out something to do, and it was.
We shouldn't have started with the hardest project.
Let's do the hardest project with no experience in this. So it's just like us just hacking our way
That's
through
great.
it.
This panel
we
is
did
good, by the
finish
way.
it.
I love the stylized
looks great
stuff going on there.
Yeah, but yeah, that one was fun because again, it was like we're doing it out of pocket and we're hoping that they'll pay something for it. And I mean, I don't know if
they did.
Can we find that one? What would be the search terms for the one?
There's
where you like build it and then sold
it. Threefold. I'll look on my phone. I'll see if I can find the right keywords for it. It's Threefold Req something. There was
hold your judgment. It's not that great.
Okay.
This was 9 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe a more recent one then. Like because you've got like the fish tank one just recently, or there was something else just before that, like the real kind of like.
We did one for this one was for a local car dealership actually, and they wanted to just do something really high end. And so we're like, well, let's just do like a 3-room transition where we move through it. And they were down. So we did one of those where it was like a closet and then a living room and then a bedroom scene.
That might have been one I've seen, like a dude's maybe getting.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And that one was super fun too, because again, they were just totally down to.
You can airdrop a link to him too, if that.
Yeah, that's if I can find it. I don't know. We may have deleted it from the internet out of embarrassment.
But I mean, the sets themselves are very cool, and that's a rotating set is something I've always had in my mind. So when I saw you guys do it, I was like, oh my gosh, and it looks amazing, like very, very good. The thing that also stuck out to me is just these higher end concepts, and the thought and the creativity in each one of these. Is that something that you guys are all tackling as a team, or is this like one person heading up the creative and then kind of, going through it with everyone else? How do you do that?
It can be a little bit of both. So there's times where we have some clients that are, they kind of give us free reign of like, where do you guys want to start? Like just, throw some ideas at us and let's see what sticks type stuff.
And do you hold like
brainstorming?
Rob and Aaron have this thing where they sit down with the client for the first, sometimes it's like 2-3 hours for the first
client discovery
sessions.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
Yeah, we have done a few of those. For WEX, we had a pretty decent discovery for some of their projects, and then that was one that we ended up doing 4 more projects for. So that
A lot of set builds for them.
Yeah,
and that was because they weren't based in North Dakota. Like they had offices in Fargo, but they had offices all over the world. And so there was no real obvious place of like where should this be done, and so
which is perfect.
Yes,
to have like a studio right there.
Yeah,
do whatever you want.
Yeah, it worked great for us. And then typically when we're coming up with concepts, though, we're not sitting down with the client all the time. It's a lot of times we've done like our team where the 7 of us will sit down and it's just brain dumps where we're just throwing everything out and seeing what sticks really. Yeah. And then from there, a lot of times we'll refine the team so it's not all 7 of us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
A lot of the time the client kind of gets in the way, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, seriously.
Like, give us the idea of what you're trying to promote or whatever.
Right.
We're the experts.
And that's been some of it. It's like it's just even trying to get a starting point from them, and then we'll come back and pitch them, a couple ideas, but a loose idea of like, all right, so what are you guys kind of seeing? And we have plenty of clients that trust us to execute everything, and they don't even show up to the shoot, and they just they see a final product, and that's great. And some of them that show up for the shoot day for a couple hours and have get to see what's going on. But it definitely works both ways, where they're like, all right, well, we'll see it when it's done, and that's an interesting. Yeah.
So does one person head creative?
Yeah, typically, we'll assign a creative director to the project.
Okay, per project.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think that's been the great thing with our team is like there's still someone who's in charge, who's responsible, but there's kind of an openness with the office too, and everyone where
interesting.
It's not like people can not voice their opinions or come and say something.
Yeah.
So
that's a beautiful balance that you guys have struck. I feel very fortunate that we're not a company here. Everyone's creatives, freelancers, or their own small company, and we all like each other, and we look forward to working together for the most part.
Speak for yourself, but no.
But no, there is that creative. There's no ego, and there's that positive creative energy where you can voice an opinion or give input. But it's not. You don't find that all the time, and the fact that you've been able to do that within a company. Most companies would not be able to function that way. I would say, right?
Yeah, and I think it's fun because it's it's definitely not in full transparency. It's not all of our projects are bang out cool studio projects.
Right.
So there's some projects that the creative load is pretty low, where it's like, all right, we work for a sand and gravel company that is kind of a pretty big global presence that they manufacture some big products. They do a handful of different things and like love working with them. We've worked with them for like 7 or 8 years, have a great relationship with them. And every 2 years, 3 years, they come back to us with a project. And that's very much like we just go to site and capture whatever is happening on site, and we kind of get creative with what we're doing there. And so it's we're pushing to try and get more studio stuff, but there's always that mix of we do have some corporate interview stuff where we're doing
bread and butter,
a recruitment video or some other stuff that is a little bit more straightforward, but
or whatever you're doing in town here.
That too, a project for the library. And but it's funny that as much as we push that studio and storytelling, kind of even getting into more narrative stuff, the sand and gravel company that came to us that we've done natural capture forever, they're like, hey, we want to do more story stuff this year for our recruitment, and less like just pointing cameras at
that's
stuff.
great.
And so even within our own clients, it hopefully can kind of change the mindset.
Yeah, that's
a little
where you
bit
always
of like
want to
what they
push,
what they want to do too. So there's always a little push there, seeing kind of how much we can get away with and what we can do, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
But no,
and back to that idea of how you're comparing whether you're like working with other agencies or not early on. And I found that like if you want to shoot cool stuff, you kind of have to come up with the ideas. Because they just don't necessarily have good ideas, or they're just. I'm not trying to throw all agencies under the bus, but like they're there to do a job. Do they really want to like put all this, passion and effort into this super creative idea, or do they want to be safe and just kind of get the project done?
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes they're risky and they don't want to take the risk, and that's where like we found the most success is like finding clients who are willing to be like, oh, let's do something a little out of the ordinary, and there's not. You're not having to work with an agency who's in working with the client and then, kind of ruining the whole process.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful thing you guys are doing. I love your work. Seriously, I'm a big fan. I look forward to seeing more of it, and also the YouTube channel. I assume you guys are going to keep continuing pushing out content.
Yeah, we're always trying to figure out strategy with that, but
and the balance of running a business.
It's more the balance.
Yeah, but yeah, we got a backlog of stuff, so things will get published someday, and
that's great.
But it's fun to connect and have connections outside Bismarck that YouTube or NAB or whatever lead to lead to that. So
100%. Yeah. There's something else I want to say, just left my mind, but yeah, love you guys' work. Oh, testament to your, to who you guys are. I think the company that you've built too, and the environment seems like a great place. So congratulations and keep up the good work.
Victor's looking for a job too. I don't know if he's
yes.
He's trying to subtly slide that in there.
There's actually a resume he slid under the table over there.
It's actually in your pocket. You got in there. Well, boys, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate the time. I know quick trip here and there, but appreciate the time sitting down with us. Thank you everybody for watching this episode. Hopefully it was entertaining. We will catch you on the next one. До свидания.
До свидания.